to The Story. I'm Tim Gordon in for Blair Best tonight. A big milestone today when it comes to Portland's new form of government. The new mayor and city council members were sworn in. Keith Wilson and 12 others representing 4 separate districts around the Rose City were part of a special ceremony this afternoon. Out with the old, in with the new. It's our big story tonight. First, a recap of the new roles of mayor and city council. Let's start with Keith Wilson, the 54th mayor in Portland history, the first in this new structure of government. Unlike the old way, Wilson will not be part of the council. He'll only cast a vote to break a tie if council is deadlocked on something. He will be allowed to introduce new laws, but the council will decide if they pass or not. Mayor Wilson will hire a city administrator who will run the city's day-to-day operations at the mayor's guidance. Wilson will also hire or keep the police chief and city attorney, although all of those hirings require city approval, council approval, I should say. Last but certainly not least, he is in charge of drawing up a yearly city budget. His first year in office comes with a budget that has a $27 million hole in it, thanks in large part to low property tax revenue. But before focusing on that, and after being sworn in today, Wilson talked about rebuilding togetherness and the task at hand for new city leadership.
Portland has reached a long-awaited moment of transformation and promise. Our city government has been reimagined, embodying the best of our innovation and values. Our new electoral system rewards consensus and bridge building over ideology and division. Our new city council is more diverse and representative than any that came before. By enacting these reforms, Portland made a once-in-generation investment in the future. Now, it's time for Portland's new leadership to meet the moment we now face and solve the issues that prevent us from reaching our true potential.
Wilson officially takes office on January 1st. Now to the responsibilities of the new city council. They will act sort of like a legislative body setting city policy. They will be far more hands-off when it comes to day-to-day city business. That will be up to the new city administrator and their deputies. Council will pick a president to run meetings and decide which topics or ordinances will be discussed and when. Now, council meetings, they're going to be held on the first Wednesday of the month at 9:30 in the morning and the third Wednesday starting at 6 p.m. Those days and times can be changed once they're up and running. Well, council will host its first meeting and elect a council president on January 2nd. Now, we enjoy deep dives here on The Story, but we are not going to play you 12 different sound bites from each new councilor. We picked one from each district instead, covering a variety of topics. There are all kinds of issues facing these 4 chunks of Portland, and the idea of having 3 people from each district is really meant to address equity concerns in the city and give neighborhoods a stronger voice at the table. That is a theme for many out east in District 1.
East Portland is a vibrant, diverse community with untapped potential, yet for too long it has been underserved. Together we have declared that our voices matter, that our needs cannot be ignored, and that our city must truly work for everyone. I pledge today to fight for the resources, representation, and reforms that East Portland deserves. I pledge to center the voices of those too often left out of the conversation. And I pledge to lead with integrity, collaboration, and an unshakable belief in the power of our community.
I worked in the city's public safety service area as inclusive policy manager, and I'm excited to continue that work here. That means defending and expanding Portland street response, stabilizing it and making it a core part of our responder network, really ensuring we're bringing our 911 response times down, working on those traffic safety issues that are causing, unnecessary and completely avoidable injury and death. And also, prevention, the Office of Violence Prevention and all those programs that really ensure we don't have a 911 call in the first place.
People will be rushing us to make decisions. Power brokers will be pressuring us to establish certain systems because they're accustomed to a certain kind of access. And when we're fatigued and we will fall back on the status quo. Portland has the opportunity to establish a new government that's going to last us the next 100 years or so, and to have voices at the table that we've never had before. It's not enough for us to just change the messengers without changing the message.
I think that we have to be talking about shelter if we're talking about homeless solutions. And instead, for a long time, we only talked about housing. And when you know that there's a waiting period of, between 3 and 7 years for a housing unit, you've got to be able to talk about shelter. And so sometimes I think Portland has been well-intentioned over the years, but our execution just has not come to fruition.
Now, speaking of shelter, just a few hours before that swearing-in ceremony, the city, along with Multnomah County, announced they will open 200 new overnight shelter beds for homeless people this winter. Mayor-elect Wilson says the goal is to hit the ground running on January 1st, which leaves a lot to do in the next 2 weeks. Evan Watson has a story.
1 year ago, homeless people like Robert were moving between winter shelters in Portland.
It's kind of confusing. I mean, I was kind of hopscotching around.
The wear and tear evident.
That's frostbite. This digit here is pretty much dead. It goes numb and it gets hard. Yeah, the tissue's dead. I'm not happy about it, but I'm an old dog and, I've been through worse.
Some of the shelter beds at that time were weather dependent, reliant on temperatures below 25 degrees or on rain or snow. On Thursday, Portland and Multnomah County announced they will open 200 new overnight winter emergency shelter beds, 7 days a week, regardless of weather conditions.
We're treating the crisis like a crisis. This is only an initial investment in next year's focus on ending unsheltered homelessness. So we're beginning January 1st and we're going to hit the ground running. This was the promise we made to Portlanders over this last 9 months.
Portland Mayor-elect Keith Wilson says there's normally a greater need for shelter spots in the winter months, and the city and county need to adjust to meet that need.
Well, this is a missing link in our system. We have 24-hour shelters, but we don't have a flexible system to ramp up and ramp down to meet the need and the level of crisis on our street.
Some of the details are still being finalized. The city and county haven't shared where these shelter beds will be or who's going to run the shelters. January 1st is the target opening date. Portland and Multnomah County are committing $375,000 each to this winter shelter expansion. Olivia Clark, a new Portland City Council member, says it's a sign that the strained relationship between the two government bodies is improving.
It's showing you that collaboration can work and that we can put up the beds, that we will work together, and there's a brighter future for us. We have one success, we'll have more success.
Wilson calls it the first inning of his primary campaign promise to end unsheltered homelessness within a year.
We're going to continue this investment throughout all 365 days of the year. We're not going to, by the end of next year, leave Portlanders on the street to suffer.
Evan Watson joins me now. And Evan, if they're aiming for January 1st, less than 2 weeks away now, it seems like there are a lot of unknowns about this plan, especially with the holidays smack dab in the middle of it.
Yeah, Tim, the sense I got in talking with the mayor-elect and council members as well is that they do have a plan of where this is going to be and who's going to run it, but that information wasn't shared to us up front in the release that we got today or in asking them questions afterwards. I will say, when talking to the mayor-elect, that January 1st potential start date, that wasn't in the release either. He said that, and I asked a follow-up question and said, so January 1st, and he said that is the hope. So we'll see if they get that. A lot to do in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, we will see. So did anything else Mayor-elect Wilson tell you today stand out, either about this plan or his homelessness plan in general?
Yeah, for leading a city that wants to lure an MLB team here, he certainly loves baseball analogies. And he said, this is the first inning of his plan, ultimately to end unsheltered homelessness in Portland within his first year in office. Naturally, I asked about the next steps, or the next innings, if you will. I say, well, what happens after this? New shelter spots is great, but what about outreach, services, support, even enforcement if it comes to that? And he said, well, Evan, just let's take this one step at a time. We're just going to focus on this right now. We'll get to all of that later.
Yeah, a lot to come, and we're going to be watching closely to see how it all shakes out. Evan Watson, thanks a lot. Well, earlier this week, Blair Bess brought you a story on the city of Portland's latest fentanyl hotspot, the Goose Hollow neighborhood southwest of downtown. She showed you how one business and nearby apartment complexes were making adjustments in the name of security and safety. At the time, Portland police told us they had been targeting the Goose Hollow area for months. And they continued that work last night. These are pictures from that Central Precinct mission in Goose Hollow, Old Town, the South Park blocks, and a section of Northwest Portland as well. They arrested 7 people, 6 who had warrants. Another person is now facing drug dealing charges for both fentanyl and meth. So they confiscated quite a bit of those drugs, along with about $700 in cash. PPB says the challenges in the Goose Hollow neighborhood, as well as others in the city, stem from an oversupply of fentanyl linked to international drug trafficking, as well as things like camp sweeps pushing people out of other neighborhoods. And an update now out of far southeast Oregon and the Owyhee Canyon lands. Oregon Senator Ron Wyden, a Democrat, and Representative Cliff Bentz, a Republican, who each had introduced separate bills to Congress in the past on what to do with those lands, released a joint statement this morning. It was certainly a surprise in our inbox to see their names together on something, agreeing. It reads, quote, "You cannot get an acre of wilderness, an ounce of tribal protection, or any meaningful grazing reforms for ranchers in the Owyhee without black letter law passed by Congress. So we want Oregonians to hear us loud and clear. We will continue in 20. Our team asked both Senator Wyden and Representative Bentz's staff if the joint statement today is a response to some kind of indication they got from the president regarding this issue. And we were told no. The statement is just a commitment to keep working toward a solution next year. Well, up next on the story, thanks to advancements in technology, Oregon State Police released this new rendering that they hope could help solve a 25-year-old cold case. The details of the case and how a private company is involved in helping solve it. That's when the story returns. Well, now to a follow-up on a story we brought you last night. A racist letter sent to leaders in Lincoln County along the Oregon coast, encouraging people to track and report people of color in their community. It was titled The Brown Roundup Part 1.
For example, parking in a church parking lot and taking down license plates and car makes and models of folks that are brown. Schools, as you wait in line to pick up the kiddos or the grandkiddos, if you see brown folks, record the plate number.
That is the mayor of the small town of Toledo, Rod Cross, who got in touch with our team after getting that letter. Other members of the Toledo City Council, leaders in other nearby cities, got the same letter. Mayor Cross says he was sickened by that letter, and during a council meeting last night said he wants city leaders to draft a response condemning the racism.
I have always believed that America was a place for every tribe, every tongue, and every nation to come together and be an individual and go for the greatest good you can get for you, for your family, for everybody. This letter really, I can't use the words I want to use because I'm not supposed to use Army language.
A city councilor, Tracy Mix, agreed that sending a strong message is the next step forward.
This is not the type of town where we sit there and watch our neighbors and we worry about because somebody moved in next door that has a different color skin. We want them to invite us to dinner or share their culture with us. And we are inviting and open. We're the type of people that accept people for who and what they are. That is what Toledo is. Otherwise, we wouldn't have so many people here ready to stand up for their neighbors.
And Councillor Stu Strom remembered an infamous incident nearly 100 years ago in Toledo, the Toledo incident of 1925, when a mob of hundreds of people forced dozens of Japanese, Korean, and Filipino people out of town.
They rounded up a bunch of people and put them on trains and shipped them out of town because they were going to take jobs away. And I know that my spouse's great grandfather, it took him years to live that down. And I would never want to see that happen again here, ever. This is a great community, and I think we welcome most everybody here that wants to have a very good life.
Yeah.
All right, now let's get to some of your feedback on our story out of Toledo last night. The vast majority of comments we received were similar to what we heard from a viewer named Nancy.
I just don't see Oregon like that. I certainly hope. I've lived here all my life for over 70 years, and that letter just made me sick to my stomach.
It's just reprehensible. You have to hold the line from the beginning, or there's no end to the ways they will find to justify doing it to another group. So I hope people continue to bring this forward when it's happening so that we nip this in the bud straight away.
Thanks to Nancy for that. And Tom wrote in to say, it was refreshing to hear the responses from the Toledo mayor and Lincoln County commissioners denouncing the letter they received about deporting the Brown community. Oregon should welcome our Brown community for the hard work and family values they bring to Oregon. They are an integral part of our Oregon way of life. And many of you laid this issue at the feet of President-elect Donald Trump. Dave told us the letter received by city officials in Toledo and other places in Lincoln County can be directly tied to Donald Trump's hateful rhetoric, blaming immigrants and undocumented workers or other marginalized groups for our problems is not going to solve anything. And how about this from a viewer who signed their email KCD? We can expect more of these types of harassments with 47 coming into office. I'm also a veteran, and this is not the country I fought for. I hope the individuals that voted for him are satisfied. All right, moving on now. Advances in technology have exploded over the past decade, and now law enforcement often turns to new tech to try and crack cold cases. That's exactly what's happening between Oregon State Police and a company called Parabon Nanolabs, as troopers work to identify remains found in Clatsop County 25 years ago. Here's a look at what's called a facial reapproximation. Look at that. In the hopes that someone recognizes this young woman, Parabon worked alongside the OSP forensic anthropologist to use genetic data to craft this image. So here's what we know. In November 1999, mushroom pickers found human skeletal remains in rural Clatsop County off Highway 26 near milepost 29. So if you're familiar with 26, that's near one of the natural drinking water stations along the road as you wind through the heavily wooded area there. Well, several things were found, including a skull, lower jaw, white athletic socks, Levi's blue jeans, size 33-34, a medium black leather jacket, and a silver-colored peace symbol belt buckle. Based on the remains that were found, experts believe the woman was between 16 and 30 years old. She stood around 5'2" and weighed around 115 pounds. They also believe she had previously given birth. Her genetics showed ancestry that includes relatives from Western Europe, West Africa, and Central America. If she looks familiar at all to anyone out there, please get in touch with state police. Any tip, no matter how small, might help. OSP has partnered with Parabon since 2019, and believe it or not, they've already identified more than 30 previously unidentified individuals found in Oregon. That's just over the last 5 years. All right, up next on the story, a powerful new treatment for cancer is showing promising results, and a key ingredient is being developed in the state of Washington. How this cancer treatment connects back to the Cold War and when it could be widely available when the story returns. Welcome back. Well, high-speed rail in the Pacific Northwest took a baby step forward this week. Washington Senator Maria Cantwell and other state lawmakers announced that almost $50 million in federal funding will be used to help plan a high-speed rail line that would connect Portland to Seattle and Vancouver, British Columbia. The money will be used for things like planning the exact route and deciding where to build the stations. Now, if it happens, the trains could reach speeds of up to 250 miles an hour. That means a trip from Portland to Seattle, that would take less than an hour, and that would be great, especially for people like me with a kid in Seattle. All right, each year more than 600,000 Americans will die from cancer, but there's a specialized treatment being tested that researchers hope will bring that number down, and it's a nuclear product born out of the Cold War. Maddie White shows us how one of Bill Gates' companies in Everett, Washington, called TerraPower Isotopes, is leading the way.
Don't drop it. Within the walls of this lab, you'll find tubes holding a substance
to keep our employees safe.
So powerful and so radioactive
It has an inhalation and ingestion hazard.
that it can only be safely handled through a wall.
You can see it's not easy.
It was first developed for nuclear weapons.
The U.S. government is one of the sovereign nations that developed the parent of this isotope, uranium-233, during the Cold War.
From there, the star of the show was born, actinium-225.
It irreversibly destroys the DNA of the cancerous cell.
Scientists, including with the U.S. Department of Energy, say it can effectively kill late-stage cancer.
It does kill tumors, yes.
Tumors like this one. See the black spot at the very bottom of his scan? The patient had end-stage prostate cancer. Take a look at how it shrinks in size after just a few doses.
It delivers all of its energy just to the cancerous cells.
Historically, actinium-225 was too difficult to make.
Quite simply put, actinium-225, there's not enough of it.
Its supply was scarce.
We are at scale and producing actinium globally.
Until now.
For the first time, this facility is now at scale operational and producing actinium-225 and selling it globally to drug manufacturers.
TerraPower President Scott Clonch says the targeted alpha therapy is given to a patient by injection.
And then that drug compound very precisely goes to the cancerous cells.
Early trials show it has other perks too.
They're not feeling the side effects that they typically have seen.
Clonch doesn't expect it to come to market until 2028, but major drug manufacturers are busy testing it.
Companies like Eli Lilly, Bristol Myers Squibb.
And that's at least something we can feel hopeful about in our fight against cancer.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that's also the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching. The good stuff is coming your way next. And remember, you can stream the story on your schedule. Just download the free KGW Plus app, available now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. Hey, have a great Thursday night, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 6:30.